Well, hi, welcome. My name is Roger Plord. I'm a consulting forester working in central Massachusetts. I work with private landowners and land trusts. What's management look like? Perhaps we might start with what it doesn't look like, and I've kind of alluded to the some of what an unsustainable harvest would look like. But basically, if it's just about cutting trees every now and again, it's really not forestry because it doesn't have the component for sustaining new growth in the forest. And it's also not about manicuring your forest and trying to make it look like a park. Where do you start? Where does this whole process of managing your woods start? And there's kind of a well-worn pathway for landowners to take. And I'm a consulting forester. Usually landowners don't come to me first. Usually their first point of entry is, and it's a good point of entry, is to start by calling your local service forester who works for the Department of Conservation and Recreation. Um, that usually looks like a meeting where the forester will come out and do a walk through your woods and have a conversation with you about what you want to do and what the landscape in Massachusetts is like, particularly like what are your responsibilities in terms of complying with regulations, and also what are the opportunities for you in terms of possibly saving a lot of money on your property taxes and connecting with a professional forester. So that meeting will usually conclude with you receiving a list of consulting foresters in your area, and you can go about the process of interviewing and picking someone that you feel good about working with, and that consulting forester will take the baton to the next level, which will be working with you, fine-tuning your goals and helping you to create a forest management plan. We're really kind of stuck on forest management plans because it's a way of putting on paper your goals and also a careful and thoughtful analysis of the forest and how it should be managed. So one other piece in that pathway is which I'm not going to go into in too much detail, but figuring out how to carry out the management that you decide upon in your management plan. Sometimes what you want to do is expensive. It doesn't always produce revenue, and there are funding sources available to landowners to help with some of those practices. So, service forester, consulting forester, producing a forest management plan, and then figuring out how to implement that plan. Parallel path is going to be your personal education as a landowner, and it's going to be actually a lifelong undertaking of understanding what it is to manage a woodlot, and the forest is so complex and there's so many different things to learn. It's all fascinating and fun and humbling. So I would encourage you to take that on as a worthy endeavor, and it'll inform and ensure that the work you do is successful and thoughtful. Back up. So you've met with your service forester. You've gone through the list of consultants in your area, and you've kind of settled on someone that you like. And invariably, the consultant's going to slap a form down in front of you and say, okay, what are your goals? You'll be asked to say whether they're important, moderately important, or unimportant. It's a worthwhile exercise to go through. I think it's a good starting point. My 2 cents is that it's okay to have a lot of goals at this stage in the game, and that you can want things that might seem mutually exclusive. The real challenge of forestry is to accomplish several things at the same time. So, for instance, one goal would be to enhance the quality of forest products, and there's another goal in there to promote biodiversity, and there's goals about producing income, and you can have all of those as goals. It's not, if you say you're interested in short-term or long-term income, it doesn't mean that you don't care about biodiversity, or it doesn't mean that you don't care about improving the quality of timber on your property. At the same time, you might say, I don't want to harvest trees. That's okay. If that's good for the forester to know, because it's going to inform the management plan that he develops for you. So some fundamental goals like that are good at the outset. But at the same time, keep in mind your goals are going to change as you learn more about your woodlot, and it is part of the process for the forester to take your goals, then go out and prepare the first part of your management plan and do the analysis, but come back to you, circle back to you and say, okay, this is what I found on your property, and there's this, that, or the other unique aspect of it, and with that knowledge you might decide that your goals need to be modified because there were things you just didn't know about. So that's fine, and that's how the process should go. So kind of alluded to what the forester's job is going to be as he prepares your management plan, and the fundamental piece of your management plan is a description of what you've got, and that description could be could look a lot of different ways depending on how deep you want to look. And my contention is that the more thorough, the better. The forest is incredibly complex, and it's oversimplifying forest management to just focus on the trees. It's like this layers of an onion. You peel back one layer at a time, and you find that there's more to know and more to learn. Just for instance, my list of analyses when I'm managing a woodlot is quite long. I mean, certainly looking at the forest canopy, we're looking at the understory, the herbaceous layer, the shrub layer. We're looking at the density of invasive plants, considering deer populations and deer browsing and how that influences forest regeneration. We're certainly looking at tree regeneration, and it's a fundamental component of any management plan to know if the forest is regenerating or if steps need to be taken to promote regeneration. Soils, wildlife habitat. And wildlife habitat has many layers to it. You could be looking at bird habitat, you could be looking at reptiles and amphibians, endangered species. The state has assists us greatly with an atlas showing where all the rare and endangered species habitats are, and that gets worked into analysis of your property. Non-timber aspects are important too, or scenic vistas and things that like hiking trails and unique trees, big old trees, all are important to work into the mix as you come up with a plan for your property. So the name of the game is the forest is complex. Try not to oversimplify it and just look at the trees. And it's also if you're not looking at everything, your results could be compromised as you move forward. And for instance, if you fail to acknowledge the soils or understand the soils underlying your trees, you may embark on a management program that is trying to promote a species that is not suited to those soils. So it's in your own interest to be as thorough as possible.